too, and we're having a little bit of difficulty trying to get that message out to folks that hey, the golf cart thing is not that important. Let's just wait until, let's not put our public safety folks at risk for something for you to have that's nice to have when you probably shouldn't be out tootling around in your golf cart anyway.
So how are you disseminating information regarding those citizens in Camanche and those businesses? Do you have a website that you're sending people to, or are you sending stuff out via the paper?
Everything we do goes on our website first, and then we use our social media. We only have a Facebook page, but we share that information there, and we also share there's a local page called Comanche Communications page, and I'll share that stuff onto there too. I normally don't share it to private pages, but I do with that one because there's a lot of people there that have that in their feed, and people can ask questions there, and I'll try and answer them as much as I can. I normally don't do that either, but you know, in this time, it's important to get the right information out to people. So the toughest battle I've found in this process is staving off the misinformation, getting out ahead of things, and making sure the right information is out. So because if you let 100 people start talking about something that they think they know about and they don't have all the facts, you're going to get a lot of disinformation, a lot of misinformed citizens, and we want to prevent that as much as possible. So I encourage people to keep checking our city website because I update that all the time.
Yeah, great. Now, city operations have slowed due to the pandemic, but you're still working on projects. What are some things we can expect in the future in the city of Camanche?
Well, so last year we sustained a lot of flood damage. FEMA has been great to work with. We received over $170,000 in funding from FEMA in return for the damages. One of the next things coming up will be the Swan Slough boat ramp, which is very widely used by lots of people throughout the area, not just people in Camanche, but we get people from all over that come and use that boat ramp. And it's a large area. I think you can fit 50 trailers there for people to launch their boats and go fishing or whatever. That parking lot was pretty much destroyed during the flood. We're going to get that replaced. That's coming up soon. We were awarded the bid for it. We're just waiting for the waters to recede enough for the winning bidder, which was Manats, to go in and replace that parking lot. And then the street going down there is Park Drive. We'll be doing that too, and we're going to end up concreting that. So even if the waters do come up again, it's not going to destroy the road. So that project is coming up. And something else that we're working on is, well, for next year's budget, we're budgeted to expand City Hall. We moved to the new City Hall a few years ago and spent a bunch of money and gained 50 square feet of space, which wasn't very effective. So we're going to expand out, and the nice service that we're going to add into that is going to add a drive-up window. So people will be able to pull in, pay their bill, and pull out instead of having to get out of their car, come in and drop their payment off because for some reason they refuse to use the drop box that's right in front of the door. But the drive-up window will work great, and honestly, if we had the drive-up window right now, we would be running limited access up to City Hall. People would still be able to come in and conduct their business at the window. So going forward, that's going to be it was an idea we already had in place. That'll help us in the future if anything like this were to happen again, to be able to maintain those services. So Swan Slough boat ramp, Park Drive, and the Fifth Avenue boat ramp will be getting repaved too. That got destroyed by the flood. And City Hall expansion. One of the things that we've been keenly aware of, I've been tracking closely, is the lower bond rates. So we're going to try and get that loan for City Hall expansion now, since the bond rates are so low. Since interest rates are low, we want to be able to capitalize on that now. Yeah. My estimation, we're looking at a 15-year payback on a $600,000 loan. If we can get that at a low enough interest rate, you can save $50,000 or $60,000 for the taxpayers over the life of the loan. So we're looking to take advantage of that now.
Yeah, from a financial perspective, there is some opportunities that we can see from municipal government. So, right. Andrew, thank you so much. I'll now transition over to Matt Brooke, City Administrator for the City of Clinton. Matt, thanks for joining us. Same question goes to you. As a City Administrator, what have you been doing to combat the spread of COVID-19 through the pandemic? Also, what's moving forward, and what can we expect after this all hopefully becomes a memory?
Yes, sir. Not robbing banks, but we do have the mask. This is from my neighbor. I had the John Deere one on before, so I was actually in the Jewel the other day and standing next to the lady looking at vegetables, and she said, "I'm from Illinois." And I said, "Well, that's good. You have your mask on." I go, "How come?" She goes, "Well, your mayor made a proclamation that you have to wear masks." And I was like, "Hey, pretty good," because we're the same boat with everybody across the state of Iowa, including our brothers and sisters from Illinois here. But bottom line for us is we're hoping for the best, but we're planning for the worst, and that's what, as I see Andrew's Navy hat, I know that Andy's Air Force, myself Army, and that's what we always we're trained to do. So that's what we do. With that, though, we are standing by the governor. We were using the word hopeful that she may say something today, since J.B. Pritzker announced that Illinois is extended till May 30th. We thought maybe our governor would come forward and say, we're not, or we are. We just like to know either way. I think it's critical, my opinion, which doesn't count, is that the more small businesses we can reopen and use social distancing and use masks and still get them so they can have some revenue, the better it'll be. Because you guys know this is common sense, but the longer this goes, the harder it's going to be on them. And some may not recover because you just can't start from negative, 100K. So and I know that's near and dear to Marine with the chamber. But it's across the region. The longer it goes, the worse it is. And we understand that it's all about being healthy, but at the same time, where do we find that balance so we can keep some of our great businesses, small businesses that we have? And I did see the stimulus piece finally came out of that, but apparently, and I'm not smart at this, Steve had a good article, comments in the paper there, David. There's so many ins and outs of these, of how you can get it, if you have 2 employees like the Iron Horse, they can't get it. So it's just really interesting. You got to read the fine print, and we're glad we have our bankers of the world that can do that for our small businesses and see where our gaps are. As you guys know, we still hold at 44 cases for the county, and 33 have recovered. We did have 2. You guys probably saw Joe Rainmaker, but we also had Wes from the fire department. Both have been recovered and returned to active duty, so to speak. But we did follow policies and procedures as far as making sure they were cleared by the doctor, making sure that all the contact piece had been worked through, and we continue to maintain that. So with the hope for the best, plan for the worst, we are planning to reopen if the governor gives us the go next Friday, but it'll also have a new normal as far as how we interact with the public. But we are coming up with the Hy-Vee and Jewel Osco and fairway stickers that have 6 feet apart. In one way. We've been doing some remodeling that was already planned for both at BNS. So now they have a window and a door. So when people come in for permitting and bring in their development pieces and parts for roads and for apartments, there's actually going to be a glass window now as they come into Central Fire Station. We're working on one, hasn't started yet, here in City Hall on the 2nd floor. So when you come upstairs, you actually would come to a finance-like window that's on the 1st floor to do that. Our fire continues as well as police, but we're also seeing on both regards last 2 weeks lower calls. On the fire side, we come to expect that because more people are staying home, we think, but we do have a lot of ambulatory calls that are to homes, but that number has actually dropped. So I don't know if folks are being healthier, what the case, but we're watching that closely. Police calls are actually down as 2. We'd actually forecasted, we thought we'd see a small increase because people out of work, maybe people suffering a little more, they maybe turn to crime, but we're not seeing that at this point in time, but knock on wood. We're still continuing, I think, as Andrew's doing the same thing. Andrew and I discussed wastewater and his crew, and that we can't afford to have any of those folks. So we have a really good agreement between us. If we need, we'll help each other out and vice versa. We did the staggering pieces as well. I think Andrew and I talked probably on March 17th on St. Patrick's Day. Talked about staggering. So we have folks come in on a half hour, so they're not seeing. Before they head out, they clean the area that's communal. We're seeing this, and Andy, you gave us some good updates for the mayor. The ADM lineup of cells, Nessacrinas are doing the same thing, is really being cautious as far as those communal areas where it could be spread, necking it down. So we don't have like a Tyson or, other meat packing plant type issues because everybody's in close proximity. The rec department, just for you guys, I know you're excited, but April 30th, Parks and Rec's going to have a charity show. They're bringing it back for a half an hour, but for the COVID-19, if you guys are Parks and Rec fans. But what we're doing is Josh is actually working with the high school. We're trying to do a drive-through recognizing the seniors through Eagle Point Park, where, stealing from other communities, but where they put up, it'll be a link for the senior. They'll have their picture, and then you can type it in. You can hear the bio. Hey, they're in these different activities. They're going to go off to do X, Y, or Z. And basically be a procession that would go through to celebrate because they're missing their graduation piece. We're also planning within all Parks and Rec to have a season. And as I explained to Josh yesterday, it may not be the 15-game soccer season. It may be 6, but we still want to be planning for that because something is better than nothing once we get that ability to do that. Especially if you're outside and kids are running and playing, we think that'd be, we can figure out what we have to do there. Meanwhile, we're doing 24/7 access to the Erickson Center. If you guys didn't know, but the first and second stories are having remodeling done. They now have an updated fitness center. We're also, for you guys that are all excited for Clinton region, we're doing a feasibility study only on what else do we need. This kind of goes the next step above the master park plan. What else do we need in our community, specifically during wintertime for people to walk and exercise and do things together, of course, when you're not ordered to stay in your house. But all road projects continue. Jason, Zane, and Evan have been out there. The contractors have been doing a great job of keeping their distance. We have the pump station still going on, 2 different ones on Riverfront, numerous road projects throughout the city. Those continue. We're going to continue to watch and monitor to make sure it's all good. You're going to see a lot of activity, whether you're just sitting on Riverfront eating your drive-through food. But we have a lot of projects planned for the Riverfront, which is part of the grant committee when we did the Iowa Great Places. So that's coming on. Everything from green infrastructure to fixing up the sidewalks. We're still postured. One of the biggest thing I think for the folks that are online today is that in the background we have, I think we have 4 current housing development pieces in parks. And I actually just was talking with Diamond Builders about trying to set up a ribbon cutting, for the 231 apartments that would begin out west. Zara Heights is in the final process of being finalized and approved off of South 18th, Springdale Drive housing. We're just now new members of Rural Housing 360, which allows someone to sign up, get a parcel to infill. So that's going on for those employers that are online as well. I mean, if anything, we're going to come out of this with a lot more high quality housing. The paperhead the other day for the Wilson building, we're back on track. That will go, has a couple more council meetings. But we're really positive, especially on something near and dear to Andy's heart, but entrepreneur spirit. It'll have 6 maker spaces on the left side. It'll have 4 on the right that's with an industrial kitchen. So folks can come in and say, hey, I really want to be a baker. I really want to make tacos. They can start doing that in a small scale and then go from there. So we're pretty pumped up about that. And of course, working with CRDC, as we see, we're going to come out of this with jobs that are available. So those folks that may be migrating around industry with Timkins, just talked to Ryan the other day, and they're still moving forward. They just had a couple of inspections of what they're doing to the Evergreen building completed. So they're still on track to get at least 45 folks in there by the summer and then up to 70, as well as Nestle Prina. We're working the build grant on manufacturing. That goes into 21st, reaching out to Roger to support that, as well as Harts Mill Road renovation. So we're still looking to do all those things. Our biggest concern is, as I said before, same with the small businesses, is the longer it goes, the worse it is for all. So at some point, even if we get back to the new normalcy, which is I got a mask on and I'm staying away from you and giving no hugs, I think that's what we need to kind of continue to work towards. As Andrew mentioned, I know you guys are all excited to be able to go online and watch our council meetings. But we had our first ever last Tuesday, and we had over 60 folks that were actually on Microsoft Teams, and then we had a lot of call-ins. This is just great because this also just gets more exposure out for those that actually do want to listen and keep abreast of what's going on in the community. Because sometimes it gets kind of hard because it's sort of like watching a Senate hearing. You got to wait for 5 hours before they get to the good stuff. But I think it's going to be a good piece. I've found, and I don't know if the other business have, but by doing these video teleconferences, we stick to the point, we stick to the timeline, and we complete, and then I'm able to get anything actions off afterwards and then move to the next thing versus, not that I don't want to sit around for another 35 minutes and talk about stuff, but I think there's been an efficiency level that's been increased. It's going to be tough to keep to maintain once we do open back up for business. So we'll be looking for that. But our hearts go out for, like I said, all the small businesses. We want to keep doing whatever we can, whether it's waiting in line behind 15 cars of Holly's dogs. The secret is to go at 11. FYI. Or any of those. And there was a really good article in the paper had today about the small businesses, where they're sitting, where they're at. They had Lou from Fifth Avenue South. They had Dave Holmes from Legend. They had the folks at Celeste from Corner Deli. It's tough because, as you guys know, it's no brainer. When revenue's not coming in, it really distracts from your business being successful. So, but we're hoping with, like I said, with the lighthouse coming out, one of our big pieces is we're using hope. We're hoping for the best. We hope to see things come back, to have the kids running around on Jurgensen soccer field and have them play ball. So we're hoping for that. But I'll pause. That's a lot of stuff, and ask if there's any questions.
Before we answer the questions, with the absence of Randy Boonstra, I do have Maureen Miller on the line. Maureen, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you want to provide a quick update regarding what the Chamber of Commerce has been doing, this is a great time to do it. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself and provide us a little update.
There we go. All right. Am I ready to talk?
You are ready. Yeah. I'm ready. We're all ready.
Well, first of all, I want to just thank you guys for putting this information out there. We've been struggling ourselves in trying to keep up with all of the initiatives that are coming out and keep our members informed of all of these things. And unfortunately, so many of them are, they're limited resources. The dollars are limited. And so many people are applying that all of these sites are blowing up and people are discouraged and frustrated by not being able to get into some of them, even to be rejected. So that's a problem. And then somebody had mentioned Lou earlier. She's a independent business person who has one employee who is her daughter, and she's just not eligible for a lot of things. So we've been advocating on behalf of these smaller businesses and the Chamber of Commerce, who also is not eligible for anything, with our legislators, both locally and nationally, saying, hey, don't forget about some of these groups of people when you're doing these things. And basically, that's what we're doing. We're trying to stay in touch with our customers through phone calls, posting their information and letting people know when they're open and available, and what's out there in terms of grants and loans, and just making sure that we're all positive and being able to visit with each other. Even if we can't sit across from each other at the table, we can still stay in touch, and that's our mission.
Perfect. Thank you. I do believe Randy Boonstra is now with us. Are you here, sir?
Yep, I've been online listening intently to Andrew and Matt.
So sorry, Randy.
Perfect. Thank you. So Randy Boonstra is the city administrator for Fulton. Randy, would you like to provide us with a quick update?
Sure. From a COVID-19 perspective, that's what we all get started with. I don't know if there's a little feedback, or we okay?
Nope, you sound good on my end, sir.
Okay, good. So from a COVID-19 perspective, first of all, the city hall, city offices have been closed to the public. We do have our staff in here on Tuesdays and Thursdays to continue to work through all the administrative things that have to take place to keep the city running. Our police department is full staffed. They're working 2 shifts, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and also during the evening then, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Public Works is working half days at this time, and they continue to have a lot of projects that they're trying to keep up on, in addition to now with the little warmer weather starting to do all the mowing around town and trimming. So even though we're slightly closed down, we're still trying to perform the services that are necessary for around the city. One of the things that I've been kept busy with is trying to work with our local businesses to provide the information on assistance that's available to them. We have a database of about 90-some local businesses that I communicate with on a weekly basis. And initially, when we had all the programs come out, like the payroll protection program, the hospitality grants, that was a busy time as we were trying to get all the businesses to be able to fill out the information they needed. We understand that several of the local businesses have been awarded those programs, and we're happy for that. But the things that are struggling the most is with small businesses around town are obviously the restaurants and bars have been closed for a long while. We have several restaurants that are doing a great job of doing curbside and carry out. And so we continue to emphasize that to our citizens and the visitors that you can call ahead and get some great service from curbside from them. We've also talked with a lot of the citizens groups around town about different assistance for them. The government programs that have been coming through from both state and federal have been very positive, and we think there's going to be a lot of help there. It just takes quite a bit of time to obviously work through all the applications and the paperwork. From a manufacturing perspective, all three of our manufacturing facilities in town are deemed essential, so they've been working full-time through this whole shutdown period. Some of the things that we've got coming up from the city's perspective, we had a budget meeting again last night, and we'll be voting on our budget on Monday, April 27th. It's a pretty austere budget. We're looking ahead that we understand there's going to be losses to sales tax revenue from some income tax revenues. Obviously, video gaming in Illinois is a big thing for us, and that revenue is going to be down also. So we prepared a budget that basically mirrors what we had last year, in addition to some cuts already going into place to make sure that we can try and continue to use all the resources we have available and still be prepared for some downturns in our income level. The marina, we were fortunate to get ahead of things, got most of the boats all put in before the river rose. Right now, the people that have their boats in are only able to get to their boats if they have a little rowboat to get over there. But the river will go down, and we look forward to a great boating season. There's a lot of good people down there that take advantage of living on the Mississippi. We continue to work with a group that's been trying to develop some senior housing for the Fulton area. We sponsored a study for them in the last year that came out positive. But with the COVID-19 situation now, most of that has been put on hold, at least for a couple of months, until the local nursing homes and hospitals and medical agencies get through what they're treating right now. We have a website. On our website, we've added a banner at the top that anybody can go to for COVID-19 information. And so we continue to put everything out there on our website that we know and how we can assist, and contact numbers. Anything that we get for information around the city, we are now posting on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So we're using social media as much as we can to try and communicate with our citizens. We have a new business that's going to be opening up downtown Fulton. Even through all this, the remodeling is going on, and hopefully when the time comes for the retail businesses to be fully opened, that business will be ready to hit the ground running. We did receive information from the governor's office yesterday that there will be a slight change to the stay-in-place orders in Illinois. Unfortunately, all the bars and restaurants will still remain closed. Most of the retail will still be closed, other than they can have curbside delivery of their goods for people. Probably the biggest thing that I saw in the release is the governor is asking or declaring that anybody in public indoor spaces will have to have face masks. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, for everybody to adapt to that for the month of May, not only to get the face mask, but to remember that this is all for the betterment of everybody in town. And then finally, I would just talk about our tourism area. We brought on a great new staff member, Aaron Fulton, that's hit the ground running with tourism, but kind of a tough time to promote tourism when everybody's staying home and not supposed to be traveling. But he's doing a great job. He is taking care of our website for us and all of our social media. He's planning on trying to, once we get back to being fully open again, to concentrate on our bike paths, location on the river, our great downtown, and then our different attractions around town, from Heritage Canyon to the Andreessen Center, and obviously our windmill and windmill cultural center downtown. So we're keeping busy. We do have major projects for 3 streets in town, totaling over $1.5 million. So those will go forward. They were already funded and bonds had been placed for those. So we're excited to see those 3 streets in particular that are really in the worst repair. They will be repaired this year and during the summertime.
Well, good. Yes, I did see the governor's order from the state of Illinois, Governor Pritzker. It says anybody over the age of 2 will be required to wear a face mask covering in all public indoor places. So that
right.
That will be. So I guess I should ask, how is that going to be enforced? I mean, is that just going to be if you see somebody in an indoor location without a face mask, you just go up to them and say, "Hey, you need to be wearing a face mask per the governor's orders"?
Yes, we've talked about it just briefly, and the chief is understanding of what directions he's been giving from the county and state level. We're going to try education and understanding. It's going to be such a thing that if there's a infraction that's observed, try to help the people understand what the governor's order is, educate them. And, we think that most people are going to be understanding. In the case that there aren't some, then obviously we'll have to take some action with that. But we think that most people are going to be willing to go along with this, at least for the month of May. It is going to be cumbersome, but we think that it's going to be for the best.
Perfect. Thank you for the update, sir. We are accepting questions at this time. So if you scroll to the middle of your screen, there'll be a little pop-up. It looks like a little conversation bubble. You can click on that and type into the meeting chat, and I will direct those questions out. The first question we did see at the beginning of this from Tony Miller is there anything that can reopen? This is mainly for the Iowa folks. Is there anything that can reopen by the cities that does not conflict with the governor's executive order? Matt, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, and I chatted back to Tony there. It's like, we're looking at the parks piece, as far as people to be moved around. But whatever reason, I think it's just human nature. Everybody loves to congregate together. And so one of the reasons that we did end up closing like Eagle Point Park, which would be great to go walk and hang out in, is because we had several groups of like 25 that were just, back their cars up with the tailgates up, drinking beer and hanging out. So right now we're kind of in the whole pattern. Like I said, we're sort of hopeful today that the governor will come out with something. We thought it would be yesterday. That's what our rumor had told us. But we'd really like to know, because we're standing postured, because we'd like to see, even if we have some conditions set, we'd like to see some of these things open, and if not before then, on May 1st. Because right now, as you guys know, the health decree is through April 30th, and she's not changed that, as JP Pritchard. So we're standing by for that. But as of time, no other things will be open until we get further guidance from the government.
Andrew, do you have anything else to add?
No, not about the parks. Although, I mean, all of our playground equipment is fenced off. We're still allowing people access to the parks. Our parks aren't that big, but Platt Park is substantial enough that people could go walk around there. Although people have been very good about not congregating and that kind of thing. We ended up very early on. We ended up having to take the basketball hoops down because the kids kept congregating on the basketball courts, and it's just it is a little frustrating that you have to take those kinds of actions because people aren't getting the message out to their kids to say, hey, don't contact sports, probably not a good idea. So we've been taking proactive actions. We're hoping that, as Matt touched on, that there will be some change in the governor's decree. And now that people are a little bit more understanding of what's going on and they're used to the situation we're presented, that they will exhibit proper behaviors to help keep themselves and the rest of the community protected.
And we're not going out. We're being, just like Randy said, we're being really passive. We're not going out giving tickets. We're just saying, hey, break this up, because that's not the time to start doing that stuff. It's and we want them to be safe. We want them to be out. We want them to be active, because frankly, a lot of people are going stir crazy, which is sort of a blessing in disguise. They had to stay home with their kids and find out that teachers were right all along, that they were struggling with this topic, or that they don't sit still. No way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Thanks.
Is there any guidance?
Go ahead, Mark.
Is there any guidance being given our citizens relative to, I know a lot of families go out in our neighborhood. We have like a husband and wife on a bike with a kid carrier behind it, couple kids, couple dogs. and when they encounter other people going the different direction, is there any guidance on bicycles on sidewalks?
Not specifically, Mark, but what I've witnessed up at along Riverview Drive is that people actually will back away and they'll start talking. So I'm only out occasionally because usually I'm in this room with no windows, but we have not directed at all. We're just asking people to be smart about it. I thought it was interesting the times I went to the grocery store, like my percentage, 95% of people observed being on the dots. They're 6 feet apart, but there's always at least one or two that'll be, I was getting some meat the other day, right next to you, no mask, wanting the same steak. So our thing is just use common sense and, don't be like the Europeans and giving kisses on the cheeks and stuff in the hugs. Just stay back and keep your distance for that.
Perfect. We did have a question regarding the CRDC funding. Historically for 501c6s, and Maureen can speak to this as well, there's not a funding mechanism out there right now as far as relief aid to support organizations like ourselves, but we continue to do what we've been tasked to do, and that's continue to inform the citizens in our existing industries. I don't think there's going to be a dip in CRDC funding from both private or public sector as a result of COVID-19. We continue to put a great message out there as well as the Chamber of Commerce. So Tony, I hope that answers your question. We did get a question as to why the Clinton High School track is closed. Is that just for specific COVID-19 reasons? The track is closed just to avoid any kind of congregation out there around the football field?
No, I actually, not to throw Gary under the bus, but I asked to have the old Ashford one open. We've been asking this for several years, way before COVID-19, because frankly, you could hop the fence.
Right.
And
Not saying I've done it, but yes, you can.
I mean, because I don't know if you remember when we were doing the piece with Andrea Barnhart from Mercy One, we used to have a schedule and we'd actually sign up and go over at 6 a.m., get the key, we'd unlock the walking gate, and then, 15, 20 people would walk around the track. No, I think if anything, it's not my piece. I understand it's all taxpayer dollar equipment and track, but that would have to be a question thrown back to Gary for whatever his reasoning. It could be similar to our closing of parks for not allowing people to walk around, but maybe I could address that sidebar with Gary as well to see what's the feasibility, because we want people out and about, walking, staying healthy and stuff. So it'd be a good question for Gary.
My next question is just a personal one regarding, pending boating season. What does that look like? I mean, are you planning it all for the slips? I mean, I know when those slips are packed down there's usually some little parties and gatherings, and everybody's adhering to the executive orders and the requests of city leadership. But boating's huge on a river town. What do you expect is going to happen moving forward?
Sure. Well, I'll start with the bad news. We bought our gas at $2.40 last fall, and we thought we were getting a bargain. Now it's $1. So Josh Agers and Gene, who's the manager there, we have a plan in place. My personal opinion, is that, I'm not going to go into your private space and dictate how you need to do things. If it's public space and we're having issues of congregation, but if you're on your boat and you have 10 people on your boat, that's your decision. It'd be the same thing packing 10 people in your cargo van to go to an Iowa pregame show or something, which hopefully all goes well. But Iowa had a top contender get selected in the draft, by the way. But as far as the marina goes, we're not going to dictate that piece in part. We want people I don't know, if we could have what I'd like would be immunization would come out tomorrow, self-testing would come out tomorrow, and then we could just get back to semi-quasi normal. But we're going to be very flexible when it comes to the marina. Unless there's something that's just way out of the ordinary, we're going to let them do business as they need. We'll still fill up at the dock, at the gas pump. We'll still have our workers with masks, with proper PPE, et cetera, as we go.
All right, we did have somebody swap my screen here, so if anybody hit the little share screen icon there, please deselect that so I can get my screen back. But thanks.
Andy, this is Randy from the Illinois side regarding boating. The governor's latest order for May is restricting boating to only 2 people on a boat at a time.
Okay, very good. Andrew, do you have anything to add regarding water recreation?
No, not water recreation, but water, other things. I just had this thought this morning, and I spoke with Mayor Willis about it. Something we're going to do, he's going to put out in his letter today, is or maybe in the next week, is to start warning people about their water bills. We do quarterly billing here, so it may be different for the two municipalities if they do monthly billing. But more people being home means you're going to be using more water at home, just like you're using more toilet paper at home. So you're going to be seeing an increase in your water bill. Nobody increased the water rates, you're just increasing your usage. So you will see your water and sewer bills increase because there's just more people home and more people using that. And one other thing I wanted to add on to, Andy, about our roads for Camanche. We did have phase 2 of our road plan set to go for this fiscal year, which starts on July 1. But because low gas prices are great, but without people moving around a lot, this is something that's going to come up at the state level, and it'll probably come to the federal level too. I think it's one of the things they're appealing for is there's road funding comes from road use tax money. It comes from gas tax. If people aren't out there driving and buying gas, doesn't matter what the gas price is, the tax is the tax. If they're not out there buying gas, that means there's a lot less road use tax money coming in. So the municipalities, the state, the counties are all going to be receiving less road use dollars to be able to spend. So we're going to hold off our road projects until the spring. It'll still happen this fiscal year, but they're going to be held off to the spring to make sure our fund is healthy enough to be able to sustain that. But that is going to be an issue, I think, going forward for all of the municipalities, is being able to get enough road use money coming in to do that. Yes, sir.
Hey, on the April 13th DOT, just for people to get a sense of what Andrew's talking about dollars, the DOT sent a letter to the federal government. It's $35 million a month in lost revenue for people not being on the roads, fueling up. And as Andrew said, that road use tax fund goes into the general fund. It's used to pay for some streets folks. It's used to pay for engineer folks. So and also it's used to do projects. So that is a big. And just to kind of dovetail, our other concern with, I saw Marine there, hotel motel. People aren't staying in hotels and motels. And so that is dropping as well, which directly affects the Clinton Visitor Bureau. Also, they're not into casinos. We typically get a couple $1,000s a month, a week from the casinos. That's not relevant. So we actually discussed in the staff meeting yesterday, at what point do we start to get concerned? We're not there yet. I think we're, like I said before, several months. The concern for me would be is all of a sudden we go into this thing for 3 more months, and then all of a sudden property taxes aren't being paid. And then that's where we really feel the gut shot. We can handle right now these smaller ones, but it all, as Andrew alluded to, it's all going to add up, and it's going to put a real bind on municipalities to provide those services.
Yeah, so we're prepared for that. We're just putting everything on pause and delaying everything. It is a concern of ours, and folks should know that if you don't see activity going on this summer for Camanche, it's because we're prepared, and we're just going to have to move everything back a little bit, and hopefully things will re-pick up. But it's a great point too about how some people's salaries are paid out of the road use money, and equipment is bought out of the road use money too, as well as fixing the roads. So that does create a long-term problem. And it was really right after the governor had made that declaration about not having the penalty for paying your property taxes late. I freaked out because I thought, well, heck, if there's no penalty, I'm not going to pay my taxes until I have to, right? And then the county doesn't get the money coming in. It's a funny, true story. The month before, I was on the KROS with Dave Vickers thing, and I said, we have to be prepared for having enough general fund money on hand, because what if the Treasurer's Department computer system that pays us the money happened to get a virus and their computer system shut down, and all of a sudden we don't get our property tax money in a timely manner? We still have to be able to function because people like to be able to get paid for their work. Turns out it's a different kind of virus. And it wasn't a computer virus, it's a health virus, and it could negatively impact. It's a little further down the road, not immediately something else like a computer virus would do, but it is something you have to be conscious of, and it just weirded me out a little bit that happened a month later. But anyway, I digress. The road use tax money is a great concern to us, and I do hope that the legislators in DC start to understand how big of an impact that is for all the municipalities and the counties in the state.
Yeah. Randy, you want to chime in at all regarding municipal funding on your side of the river?
Yeah, I mentioned it, when I first gave my opening comments. But, we're looking at everything. And as I said, our budget discussion last night was mainly about this coming fiscal year, which starts May 1st in Illinois. It's going to be just about needs, not wants. Mm-hmm. And we certainly recognize that there's going to be a loss in sales tax, a loss in income tax. There's going to be a loss in Illinois. It's called motor fuel tax, which Matt and Andrew were talking about. Goes into a separate fund in our budget, but as part of our cost cutting, for instance, the budget that we're going to approve reduces the amount of money that we put into our depreciation fund for street repairs. So we just have to be really careful. And the council last night, the discussion was basically, let's try and get ahead of this. Let's start making plans already that if this particular income stream starts to go down by a certain amount, then what action are we going to take? Rather than having to do that, within a couple of weeks time frame. We want to start planning ahead. So the mayor tasked our finance committee last night to be aware of that and to start looking at the different fund levels that are going to go down. The only, I like to try and always put a positive spin on it. The only positive area I can see here is that in Illinois, we get use taxes, which are a lot of the taxes come from internet transactions. So I think as people are staying home, I still see UPS and FedEx out delivering a lot of packages. I hope people are buying a lot of stuff online so that we get the tax increase from that.
Yeah.
And along those lines, Randy, you guys are fortunate that you have your budget set up that way, because for the Iowa side, we had to have our budgets in place pretty much before any of this stuff shook out. So that creates a real problem for us, because who knew what was going to happen when we set our budget off the first week in March or second week in March, and all this stuff just starts to shake out and you don't know what's going on, but you've already set everything in place. So it's going to be challenging for us next year, I think. And we're aware of it. It's, we're going to have to pay attention to it closely.
All right. Well, thank you for those responses. We have approximately 15 minutes left in this broadcast. And before I turn it over to you guys for closing statements, I just would like to say ClintonDevelopment.com. You can click on the COVID-19 tab. We are updating that daily with new information as it comes out. It is chock full of links and other resources available. If you are a business owner or you work closely with business owners who are interested in applying for federal funding, I strongly encourage you to advise them, as I would advise them, to contact their lender, contact their accountant, and receive some assistance in navigating those waters, because the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a position where you're taking on more debt and you don't know exactly actually what you're signing on the dotted line to receive. So reach out to those lenders, because they understand what your business needs. They understand what the interest rates are. Go to them as your initial resource. The CRDC has been partnering with Eastern Iowa Community College. We've created a short little video series that will start airing next week. We've been interviewing human resource professionals, trying to identify what they're doing in preparation for COVID-19 and managing their workforce. Also, what opportunities are going to exist within the four walls of their manufacturing plants moving forward, because there is going to be a subset of our population, probably in retail and hospitality, who may not be able to go back to work right away. So if they're interested in seeking additional employment, the manufacturing sector is going to be a great option because they continue to hire. So I will be sending those out via email, but it's a great opportunity to collaborate with Eastern Iowa Community College. So we continue to do work on your behalf, kind of lifting up all the rocks, trying to find the benefits of each program that's available and pushing that information out. I thank you for being part of this show today. As we close in the last 10 minutes, if you have any questions related to COVID-19 or anything to do with the municipalities from either Camanche, Clinton, or Fulton, go ahead and put it in the chat window there. But I will turn it over to Matt Brooke for some closing statements as we exit this interview.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for putting this on, and to my fellow municipality city administrators. This reminds me of a Martin Luther King Jr. quote: "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." And I think we'll weather this. Part of our Lighthouse article, the mayor and I, is going to talk about, where were you when JFK was shot, if you're born? Where were you when they landed on the moon? Where were you at 9/11? Where were you when pandemic, 2020 COVID-19 hit? So in regards to that, one of the things we don't talk about a lot, but we're really focused on, I don't know if you guys know, but the Victory Center does over 1,000 meals per day. And so one of the things we're looking at is the Community Development Block Grants under IEDA, Debbie Durham and crew. We put in for some IT, got shot down, of course, but we're actually putting in for some dollars to have an expansion of the Victory Center to build a bigger kitchen, expand service more, and it actually be one of the first opportunities for our first ever in Clinton homeless shelter that would be part of the Victory Center. So we're continuing to work that. There's an outside shot. We're trying to get some dollars for the Clinton farmers market. And for the guys who don't know what that is, it's an item developed by the Lions business folks up there, Cheryl Lynn Bartles and crew, to do basically a covered roof over Roosevelt right off of Main Avenue. To increase the ability for like Kevin Meacham, who does, I think he has 5 flats now in Clinton where he's growing produce. But to, continue to look at that, because we don't ever worry about, as we talked about going to the grocery store and getting our meats until all of a sudden, distribution starts to shut down. And I think it's a sign of a good man or woman. You miss 3 meals and I'll tell you, everybody gets cranky. So we got to figure out a better way too to be able to provide more sustained foods throughout the region, and that's one of the things we're looking at from the farmers market perspective, as well as gardens for that. But I just thank you guys. We're available for further questions after this is over. Hit us on email, hit us on calls. But we want to make sure that, as Andy said, no stone goes unturned. That we're making sure we're caring for those. They'll tell you it's usually raw stubbornness. But some of the people we probably haven't heard from just because they're stubborn. And there are probably people out there that we need to just reach out to directly because they won't reach out to us. And you guys probably know who they might be to say, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything we can do for you to help you out? And I leverage my time to my good friends in Fulton and Camanche.
Perfect. Andrew?
Yes, sir. I echo the sentiments of Matt. I think he put it better than I could. One thing I'll put a shameless plug in is for the Salvation Army. I'm the chairman of the advisory board there, and they've seen an uptick in needs in their food pantry and servicing folks for their needs for diapers for the kids and whatnot. The one thing people may not be aware of is that this year the Salvation Army saw a drop in kettle donations, so we fell short of our goal. So if any businesses or folks out there have the ability to just write a check to the Salvation Army there in Clinton, just drop it off there. They'll be happy to take it and help them out because they are servicing more members of the community every day. Every day they're touching 50 to 75 individuals, 15 to 20 families every day. They're trying to help them with stuff, and it's more than what they normally do. And Matt wants to quote MLK, great quote. I graduated. My undergrad came from Northern Illinois University, and we had the shooting there back in the early 2000s there. And they asked the president of the university how we're going to get through this, and he quoted the NIU fight song, "Forward, together, forward." And I'll leave with that.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Randy?
Yeah, I would just want to finish up by saying I think we're really all very fortunate to be living in this Tri-City area. I once again appreciate all the camaraderie that goes on between Iowa and Illinois. The river does not separate us. In fact, it unites us around a common thing, and we really appreciate that. Just try to keep everybody positive, and during this time, I know a lot of our religious services are all online because we're not able to get to the churches like we used to. So I just encourage people to keep up their faith, and we're all going to get through this together.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank the three of you for your leadership and taking the time this morning to speak with us. I would be remiss if I didn't mention next week we will be interviewing Debbie Durham, who is the director of the Iowa Economic Development Authority. Thank you, Aaron, for reminding me that. Also, Maureen Miller would like me to mention that the nominations for the Fairway gift cards, if you're not familiar with this, Fairway, an amazing organization, has donated several $100,000 to chambers of commerce to be able to issue gift cards. The applications for those can be sent to Maureen Miller at the Chamber of Commerce. I'll send some more information out regarding that via email, and you can receive up to a $50 gift card per employee in your place of work. So a lot of organizations doing a lot of amazing things. Again, thank you for taking the time to listen to this call today. I did record it. I cut you short a little bit in the beginning, Andrew, but I will be sending this out in an audio snippet. Thank you so much again for participating. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name is Andy Sokolovich of the Clinton Regional Development Corporation. Everybody should have my contact info. Don't hesitate to text as well. My cell phone is in the signature block. All right. Well, thanks to three of you again for participating. We'll talk to you guys soon. All right.
Thank you, everybody. Be safe.
Bye.
See ya.